This morning we're pleased to launch the initiatives from the project Carers Count, Support for Continence Management. Carers can be of any age and come from all walks of life. They can be spouse, sibling, a close or distant relative, or simply a friend. And carers are often support another person who, because of an illness, disorder or disability, needs care and support to function in life. And as I mentioned, in Australia there are 2.7 million unpaid family and friend carers. Just a few facts. The report from the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare found that in 2009 there were 139,000 people living in households who always or sometimes require assistance in managing their incontinence. Many of these people relied on assistance from a family member or friend, and the report identified that there were over 72,000 primary carers, as are defined before, who usually assisted with managing another person's incontinence. Most carers are women and are the main source of assistance for people who are disabled or aged or have a long-term condition. Carers, as we know, enable many people to live at home for longer. Primary carers are most primary carers are close family members, live with the person they care for, and are aged between 25 and 54 years. The higher care needs of people with incontinence places a greater working load on primary carers, and they spend a longer amount of time in caring compared to those who care for someone without a bladder or bowel issue. Furthermore, carers of people with incontinence report changes in their friendships, in their sleep patterns, and in their emotional health. From the survey conducted by the Australian Bureau of Statistics, Caring for in the Community, about half the primary carers surveyed reported they had experienced feeling weary, often feeling angry, resentful, worried, depressed, and having a stress-related illness as a result of their caring role. The increased load and stress continence management places on a carer has led us to identify unpaid family members and friends as a target group for this year's special project. So we conducted a literature review to determine the current research and gaps that exist for carers in order to develop our project objectives and strategies. So we used the words carers and incontinence, and we searched in 6 academic databases plus Google Scholar, and we only looked at results after the year 2000 for text from scholarly peer-reviewed journals. So as a result, 15 articles were included in our review, and we made sure that they were relevant to our subject and focused on unpaid and at-home carers. Reports from key organisations such as Carers Australia, Australian Bureau of Statistics, Australian Institute of Health and Welfare, the Australian Continence Foundation of Australia were also included. We found that there are many emotional costs when managing incontinence, as it is a profoundly stigmatising condition which is shown to have negative social consequences. It is difficult to separate incontinence care from the overall care situation. Incontinence often represents an extra burden, particularly in the case of the very disabled or the elderly people with dementia. Even when elderly relatives don't have cognitive problems, carers have to frequently remind them to go to the bathroom. That constant need for watchfulness for continence management is sometimes deemed as very time-consuming and stressful for carers. Although carers perform an important task for society and for their relatives, they do so at a cost to themselves, as Ara had pointed out this morning. Primary carers who usually assisted with managing incontinence reported changes in their physical and emotional well-being more so than those carers who did not assist with managing another person's incontinence. The range of issues experienced by people caring for someone with incontinence are social isolation. Carers are not free to go away with friends and travel as they have someone to look after it back at home. They do not invite friends over to the house for the fear of bad smells, and so day by day the social bonds weaken and more they grow alone. Physical exhaustion and emotional weakness, they get tired. It's the first and most widespread consequence of incontinence management, related to back pain and other problems derived from frequent physical exertion. The carers often suffer from anxiety and emotional problems. the need for practical support, respite and training, carers suggested more practical support to be able to have a break from caring and respite. Moreover, they reported the need to attend training courses to learn how to manage the care of their relatives and handling the leakages. The literature also showed that carers assisted by a range of formal services, including financial assistance, respite care, counselling, care planning and other coordinated services. Respite care is the major service type specifically targeting carers. However, few carers reported using these services, and there are a number of reasons for that. The findings from the literature review informed and guided our project's aim and objectives, particularly on the need for practical support and training in better managing incontinence for the person they care for. Therefore, the aim of the project is to raise awareness and improve support and understanding of continence management for family and friend carers. And this will be achieved through 4 key objectives. Identify methods to improve communication and level of information available. Develop initiatives to improve access to continence information for carers. Develop a communication strategy to promote the project's initiatives and ensure there is appropriate representation from carers in all of the project's activities. The project receives support from Carers Australia and the Carers Associations, particularly Carers Victoria, Carers ACT and Carers WA, whom we work quite closely with. So the strategies we employed were the conduct of focus groups and surveys with carers to identify gaps in information, develop a carer-specific webpage on the Continence Foundation website, review the carer resources available from the Continence Foundation, support the Foundation's network of health promotion officers based in the States to deliver local consumer forums targeting the carer support groups, provide information or training to the care advisory service staff in each care association, and we identified opportunities in promoting the initiatives in partnership with other organisations and events. We will need to review the effectiveness of our webpage and the level of engagement with our initiatives with an evaluation in 6 months' time. With the first strategy, we conducted a survey with the callers to the National Continence Helpline who are identified as carers. We canvassed their views on the impact incontinence has on their caring role and identified their information needs. A survey to 500 callers was conducted as part of the annual National Continence Helpline customer satisfaction survey, bit of a mouthful, with an additional 19 questions, and these were only sent to those callers who identify themselves as a carer when they call the helpline. Of the 500 surveys distributed, 92 were returned, which is probably a lower return rate than we expected, but we still were able to glean valuable information. We also interviewed the helpline staff on some of the questions the carers tend to ask and the information that they sought. So briefly, what did we find? Most carers care for one person, 87%, who was often their husband, wife, partner, or their mother. 92% provided the majority of care in this, for this person, and on average had cared for them for more than 5 years. Care recipients had a range of incontinence issues, with the most common being losing urine before getting to the toilet, leaking urine without meaning to, and needing to get up frequently overnight to pass urine. They most often use continence pads or pants to manage their incontinence, and only 50% received help from a health professional for their incontinence. Respondents identified that the type of information that would assist them to care for someone with incontinence include information about financial assistance and practical tips on looking after someone at home. So the results from our survey were reflective from the findings from the literature review. We also held 2 focus groups with staff of the Carers Associations and with carers. One was based in Victoria at the end of April and the other in Canberra at the end of May. With the focus groups, we aimed to first review our carer resources and identify any gaps for future considerations. Secondly, to user test the webpage for accessibility, navigation and design, and we will look at that shortly. And of course, we had a working party. A range of stakeholders were invited to guide the project's initiatives and outcomes, and this included representations from Carers ACT, Carers Victoria and Carers WA. And we had carers from each of these states as well, and obviously the Continence Foundation staff and management were involved. Their contribution to the project was crucial in ensuring relevance and quality of deliverables. The outcomes of these activities, supported by the findings from the literature review, inform the topics and the content included on the new carer webpage and the other initiatives developed as part of the project. So I will now hand over to Danyel.
Thank you, Nives. So as Nives mentioned, we are launching today a new carers webpage. Now this webpage sits within the Continence Foundation's website, it's continence.org.au, and it is a comprehensive resources for carers with general information about incontinence, practical caring tips, some videos, fact sheets and useful links. The topics chosen were skincare, dementia, practical caring tips at home, products and financial assistance. And these were based on feedback from the National Continence Helpline survey and consultation with key stakeholders as being important to carers. As part of the initiative, a review of the key resources for carers for people with incontinence was conducted to ensure concise information, relevance for carers, practicality of advice and consistency of messages. These resources included the DSS Caring for Someone with Bladder and Bowel Problems booklet and the Continence Foundation's Caring for Someone with Incontinence and Where to Get Help fact sheets, of which are in your bag today. The participating organisations in the review were Rest Haven South Australia, Alzheimer's South Australia, Carers ACT Victoria and WA, including representation by the Continence Resource Centres, the National Continence Helpline, CFA Health Promotion Officers and CFA Consumer Advisory Committee. A number of continence nurse advisors and carers from Victoria, WA and ACT also participated in the review. The findings from the review was largely favourable, with design, content and language style found suitable and relevant for carers. Carers are more concerned with the practical elements of managing episodes of incontinence rather than the clinical details. This includes finding the right equipment and where to get it, who to contact when help is needed, and what help is available. Some carers found the current resources predominantly focused on aged care, particularly those caring for young children or teens with a disability. While some effort was made to close this gap, further development will be required on disability and incontinence. This resource review is ongoing, with the funding schemes for continence products fact sheet also currently being reviewed. Now, all of these, as I mentioned, are available as free downloads on the continence.org.au website or can be ordered through the National Continence Helpline. The experiences of the resource centre managers and Continence Foundation's health promotion officers in providing information sessions to carers fed into the development of a PowerPoint presentation for carers. Now, this presentation will be used by the health promotion officers and resource centre managers to present to local carer support groups and to provide face-to-face interaction and promoting the new carer resources. The presentation will cover the basics of incontinence, continence assessment and management, continence aids and equipment, and financial help. The Continence Foundation also developed a short survey for the Carer Advisory Service team to determine if there is a need for information or training on incontinence and what is the most appropriate approach to take. The feedback received supported the development of a short video for their carer advisory staff. The Continence Foundation have scripted and filmed a short video which outlines the role of the National Continence Helpline and provides advice in helping to identify callers who may be managing incontinence for the person they are caring for, and how to raise the issue of incontinence with callers. It was then decided to widen the scope of the video to include other health-based telephone services to broaden its application. The Carer project is supported by this year's World Continence Week theme, Tell Someone Who Cares. The theme encourages people affected by incontinence or those caring for someone with incontinence to seek help by phoning the National Continence Helpline. There are carers and health professionals working in the community acting as spokespeople around the states to take up media opportunities. A double-sided poster is available, and there is a copy in your bag, which can be displayed in your workplace during World Continence Week or for ongoing promotion. There are free resources that can be ordered through the helpline to distribute to your clients or to assist with any promotional activities you may be running, and these resources can be ordered on an ongoing basis.
Thank you, Danyel. We are very pleased with the initiatives from the project, and we hope over time, with the support of our members, that we are able to further increase the level of awareness that help is available to carers and to those with incontinence. So we thank you for listening and thank you for your time.